Hey YouTube, Amanda here, representing Core TCG. With the new format, there's a lot of people wondering what to play and what's going to be still viable after the ban list. And a lot of people switched over to plants or made plant hybrid builds since the fall of Dandelion. But there is still many viable builds out there that you can use. And one of them is actually pure plant control, which is very similar to Hime, but there's a few alternatives that the deck uses in order to compensate for the fact that Dandy went to 1. So let's begin. Alright, this build is courtesy of David Molina, who does really well with the build and has topped several regional events with it. Double Titanial. Now, it's a monster with a significant attack, and it also provides field control. Her effect stops targeting, which especially proves useful against cards popularly seen in the meta like Caius, Dimensional Prison, Chaos Sorcerer, Mystical Space Typhoon. So that's a really good advantage for her to have, because she not only controls the field with a large attack, but also has a really good control element that stops a lot of cards that Stardust isn't able to. Now, you must be wondering why run 2, because most of Hime decks' biggest issue is drawing into her, because they want to use her with Lone Fire. Well, the deck does play Trade-In, and there's another target I'm going to get into later on Trade-In, but this is plant control. So if one of these Titanials is removed in any way, shape, or form, you know, bottomless or something, DD Crow, there's a second copy that comes out that the opponent does not expect, because most builds standard play 1. So this other copy can hit the field very easily and start controlling the board again. So Titania, amazing card. Lone Fire Blossom gets any plant from your deck, which translates to toolboxing your setup for you. This is the toolbox of your deck, basically. This deck doesn't play Pot of Avarice to recycle them. Instead, it plays a card called Miracle Fertilizer. And we'll get back into that later when I bring it out. But basically, this toolbox is for you. Gets anything you need for your setup. It's an amazing card. Double Card Trooper. One of the cards that compensate for the lack of Dandelion. And aside from the free plus it gets when it's destroyed and the milling is a cost. So you can combo it up with Debris Dragon, bring it out, mill, and then synchro, even though it doesn't get the attack boost. Amazing card. Debris Dragon. 90% of the best synchros in the game are powerful dragons, and they can all come out through this guy at little to no cost. Aside from there being plenty of targets in the deck for him, Card Trooper, Spirit Reaper, Dandelion, Lone Fire, etc. This guy gets all your dragons for you. There's the upcoming Trishula coming out as well that justifies playing him even more. So, one of the main parts of the deck. Now this is where it gets interesting. Double Koekimero Gravity Rose. This is your substitute in place of Raikou. Instead of a random mill, during your standby phase when she's face up on the field, you get to dump any level 3 or lower from your deck to your graveyard. Any level 3 or lower, not just plants. And that means you can send Sniffus, Spore, Dandelion, even Plate Spreader if you play it. Now, she's a 4-star 1900 beater, and 4-star means you can remove her with Spore's effect to make him a 5-star, which is a really interesting feature that most Hime decks could not do. So you can bring out Spore at level 5, you can bring her out as a beater. Any opponent that's sensible enough to realize how good her effect is won't leave her on the field for long, so they'll invest cards that go out of their way to at least get rid of her so that you don't get the setup you need. But if she does go off, she's amazing. And if she doesn't, she takes cards because she's a huge beater. So, another great card. Spore, the little plant. Now this guy turns into almost anything aside from being a 1-star that you can go into Formula with first. So you can go into Formula, draw another card, and then use them again. So, free pluses. Glow Up Bulb, same concept. And if you have 2 tokens, you can actually go Lone Fire or normal summon Glow Up Bulb and get a free Pot of Greed by going into Formula twice. Really good card, and it's an Earth, so you can go into some Naturas with him. Natura Rose Whip, the 3-star Earth that you go into your Barkion with using Card Trooper or Dandelion. It's 400 attack, so it's also a Debris Dragon target, even though it's a tuner. It's 1700 defense, so it's actually a little wall, and it has a built-in Shogun effect as an extra bonus. So, good card. Searchable with your Lone Fire and your Miracle Fertilizer. Sniffus. Now, if you don't know what this does, you can pop a plant to pop a face-up card on your opponent's side of the field. And it's a tuner, 1-star, so you can go into Formula with him. And during the damage step, he gets around oppression. If a plant's destroyed, you can bring him out. So if your opponent has oppression that's causing you problems and they destroy a plant on your field, you bring out Sniffus, Then you activate Sniffus' effect, pop a plant, and pop the Oppression. So plays around Oppression. Really good card, and he's an Earth. Earth Beast. Spirit Reaper. This is one of those splashable techs that can go into almost any deck and fit well in there. He's also a debris target, and he can act as a defensive wall and also act as an offensive card that takes cards from your opponent's hand. So great card. Dandelion, one of the engines of the deck. This guy brings out tokens that you can use to synchro with or use as tribute fodder for Titanial or Polynosis. So there's no reason not to play him, of course, and he's the main engine of a deck. The next card is a game-winning card that has been highly underestimated by the opponent, Phoenician Cluster Amaryllis. Now, you must be scratching your head and wondering, what does this do? I'm going to explain to you now. First of all, it's an 8-star, so that means it's a trading target. 2200 attack means it's a beater. If it exists in your graveyard, you can remove from play a plant from your graveyard to special summon it in defense mode. So it's a free defensive wall, basically like a token since it's 0 defense. It's free fodder for Titanial if you need to negate something. Free fodder for Polynosis if you need to negate something. And if your opponent doesn't get rid of it, next turn, put it in attack mode, swing as a 2200 beater. If it attacks directly or attacks at all, it immediately destroys himself. And anytime he's destroyed in any way, shape, or form, your opponent burns for 800. So if it attacks directly, 22, destroys itself, burns for 8. If someone attacks it, burns for 8. Anything like that. So this often comes out late game or mid game, starts burning down your opponent, and then the opponent's scratching his head trying to figure out how to play around this because they don't have enough life points left. And that's one of the best parts about this card. It comes out for free, and it puts your opponent in a bad situation. And this deck has won so many duels just because of this card, which is a really lame way to lose if you think about it, because you have 800 life points less left, and you can't get rid of this card. And that's what happens often because people neglect to realize the potential of this card. And it catches everybody off guard. So that's Phoenician Cluster Amaryllis for you. It's really great. Alright, Cactus Bouncer, control element of the deck. It freezes the field and serves as a free beater. 1800 attack, 4 stars, so you can remove it for Spore for level 5. It's an Earth, and if there's another plant on the field, not just your side of the field, neither player can special summon. Now what this means is you can play this late game and prevent Cores and Fader from dropping. You can stop Treeborn Frogs, you can stop Chaos Sorcerers from coming out, and in any plant-oriented deck or any deck that plays a plant engine, you play this against them, you summon it on its own. If they go Lone Fire, which they make the mistake of doing that often, they immediately lock themselves because now there's another plant on the field. So this card wins games and is a really good control element. Cactus Bouncer. Sangan, last monster. Now, this searches out virtually half your deck. It's great for synchroing. You get a free plus out of it. And it gets your Lone Fire, your Dandelion, etc. And it's a great call of the haunted target. So that's Sangan. That's the monsters. Spells. Double Mystical Space Typhoon. Now, aside from the typical, save it and don't, blind MST plays, so when you're in a situation where your opponent has Royal Oppression or whatever, you can activate it. There's other ways of utilizing this card, and people don't realize that. You can use it to net your own Stardust Dragon, for example. If your opponent summons Chaos Sorcerer, or uses Dimensional Prison, or Caius, or etc., you could chain MST on the activation as Chainlink 2, then activate Stardust as Chainlink 3, negating your own MST and tributing the Stardust as a cost. Thus, they no longer have targets upon resolution, so the Caius doesn't remove the Stardust since it's already in the grave. And then the Stardust comes back at the end phase, so it's not a minus because you can just go and run over that monster next turn, etc. So that's a play that actually has won games that people don't see often. Destroying your own garden. Double Miracle Fertilizer. Now, before I get into anything, I do have to mention, I know it's a bit obscure, but this card can't be negated for the same reasons Infernity Launcher can't be negated by Solemn Warning. So you can't Solemn Warning this card, basically. You can MST it, you can Solemn Judgment it, you can't Solemn Warning it. If you don't know why, it's a bit excessive to go into right now, so go ahead and look it up. But Miracle Fertilizer. If you don't know what it does, once per turn, you can select one plant type monster from your graveyard and special summon it. You can't normal summon or set the turn you special summon a monster with this effect. Now, that's the first part. So basically, if you play this and your opponent goes DD Crow, removing your target, you can still normal summon that turn. So that's a good advantage. The card also stays in the field and you can use it in the next turn, so that DD Crow becomes a minus for them. Same thing with MST. If they MST this before you get your monster, you can normal summon. And this gets back your Lone Fires, your Titanials, your Tuners, everything. So it's a really great card. And the monster that's attached doesn't get destroyed if this is destroyed. So that's also really cool. But vice versa, it does. So if the monster leaves the field, this leaves the field. But it's a great card. And it's recyclable with Giant True Nade. You can play two, activate them both, True Nade them back, and then play them both again. So that's really cool. Miracle Fertilizer. Pot of Duality allows for hand corrections, setup, and those trade-in plays that you might want to be playing. So it's really good. Swords of Revealing Light. Now this is a really underestimated card, and people will laugh and say, why are you playing swords? But if you think about it, this is a plant control, which means you need to get a setup for your control. So if your opponent leaves this on the field, this means they're allowing you a 3-turn setup for free. If they get rid of it, that means they wasted an MST or an effect to destroy it. And this comboed up with cards like Grabby Rose means you have a Grabby Rose on the field, you have this, it can't get run over, and it'll just start dumping tuners, which happens often. And this can be recycled with Brionac, Giant True Nade, etc. So it actually works really well. And it's a game saver, great top deck card. Trading makes those dead Titanials not dead anymore. And the Phoenician. Dark Hole. Save it, don't waste it. Amazing staple, changes games. Mind Control. Aside from there being plenty of tuners in your deck to waste an opponent's monster and synchro with, you can also do that cool play where you grab someone's Stardust and you use your own formula to go into Shooting Star. Awesome card. Giant True Nade. Recycles so many cards in your deck like Call of the Haunted, Swords of Revealing Light, and Miracle Fertilizer. Aside from that, it clears your opponent's back rows so you can get your field setup out and lock your opponent down. So, good card. Book of Moon. Gets rid of those pesky trap stun or decree plays by playing around them if your opponent synchros. Too bad it's at 1 copy, but it messes up Exceed summoning apparently, so Book of Moon, really good card. Monster Born. Game-changing card. Can create OTKs. If you don't know about the Colossal Fighter Armory Arm loop, look it up because this deck can do it with Monster Born or Miracle Fertilizer along with Lone Fire and Spore. So this is a really great card, especially in this deck. Foolish Burial gets that Lone Dandy to grave along with all those other tuners that you can, like Glow Up Bulb, Spore, etc. Really good card. Double Solemn Warning. Now Solemn Warning, of course, is one of those cards that get rid of the problem cards before they can cause a problem. Kills those Black Rose plays, those Dark Arm Dragon plays, etc. This can minus your opponent too if they waste cards synchro summoning, because it's 1 card for 2. And plenty of other really good uses for this card. One Solemn Judgment stops basically everything. It's the Solemn Judgment. We've known this for so long. Polynosis, Solemn Judgment number 2, as we say. Now, you tribute a plant, and you negate the same things that Solemn Judgment negates. So, essentially you can tribute tokens, you can tribute Phoenix Cluster Amaryllis, you can even tribute an actual plant monster that you have if it's significant enough to negate. And this throws your opponent off severely because it's little to no cost and it stops so many things. Dimensional Prison. Gets rid of cards that can pose a threat in the graveyard by just removing them. So, it's a good card. Mirror Force. Potential minus on your opponent. Torrential Tribute. Potential minus on your opponent. Also, usually your field can normally ignore this card as well because you'll have set Dandelion, set Sangan, etc. So, works out well. And Call of the Haunted. So many things can be said about this card. Normally your targets are being synchro summoned with, so this will stay on the field for you to reuse and recycle and abuse. So Call of the Haunted gets back Sangan, Dandelion, etc. People always make the mistake, amateur mistake, of blind MST. And if it hits this card, it's a free plus because you can target Sangan and other cards. So Call of the Haunted, really good card. That's basically the deck. That's the main deck. Anybody have any questions or comments, let me know. Also, check out this code down here. When you go on the Core TCG site and you make a purchase, enter this code offered right here and get a free discount. So no reason not to use it. All right, guys, take care. Have fun.